Hey, welcome to another bonus episode of the Daring Creativity Podcast. I'm here to unpack some of the gems from this week's conversation, pulling out those moments that deserve a second look and dig deeper into what makes them special. This week I spoke to Ryan Luse, a motion designer and art director from Marin County in California. The episode, published a few days ago, was titled Dare to Let Your Work Be Rough Around the Edges. And it was a conversation full of honest storytelling, how to overcome life and work obstacles, talking about life pivots, and a lot of conversation about mountain biking and its parallel with creativity. If you haven't checked out a full conversation yet, let me share these 4 moments that stood out from our conversation.
Initially, it's really overwhelming to be on a mountain bike with all these controls. You're riding on unpredictable terrain. You're looking at rocks or whatever, and you just don't know how the bike goes over that, I guess. But over time, you just get a sense of what the bike is capable of and what you're capable of. And I would say, to answer your question, the biggest thing that pulled me in initially was this concept of comfort zone, where if you are always in your comfort zone on a bike, you're not going to learn much and you're not going to progress much. And you might even get bored because you're staying within this comfort zone that's quite limiting at first. And fear kind of keeps you from pushing the bike too fast or whatever. But someone early on told me you should be riding just past your comfort zone.
As you might have heard me talking on this podcast before, I'm a keen cyclist, and any moment or any opportunity to talk about cycling and what it means and how we can find that at one moment on a bike is always the one that we're searching for. And this moment that Ryan just shared was the pivotal for the whole episode. He uses mountain biking not as a metaphor, but as a lived-in experience. And I guess that was the reason why it landed so differently. Because when he was talking about going downhill, you don't have time to overthink. You either lean in or you don't. And that moment about, riding past your comfort zone seems a little bit edgy, but essentially he's just saying that creative process works the same way. The brief that scares you, the client note that frustrates you, the project you nearly said no to, those are the ones that push your skills forward. The comfort zone isn't safety, it's stagnation dressed up nicely. And Ryan's been testing this principle for 25 years on a bike before applying it to studio work. And that lived-in proof makes it impossible to argue with.
It was the first job I've ever, and only that I've ever quit, because I knew I needed time. I couldn't process what I was going through and work this other job at the same time. So that was basically dedication to stillness, to just like not traveling and escaping and distracting myself or getting more dopamine from this or that, but just, I'm not going to work for a while. I'm just going to spend time with my partner and our dog and just kind of figure out what's right for me and what's authentic for me, because the path I was on, that's not where I want to go anymore. So like, what's my new path? What's my authentic path? And as you can imagine, that's a pretty hard question to answer. That it takes a lot of reflection. So that's really what caused me to really look deeply into intuition and instinct and my own emotional intelligence, and just give it time and just see what direction it's pulling me.
It's potentially the bravest thing that Ryan said in the entire conversation, because it goes against everything we are conditioned to do in a crisis. Most people respond to job loss by immediately searching for the next thing, updating CVs, firing off emails, staying busy to avoid quiet. How many times do we find ourselves, redesigning websites and panicking instead of actually, having a proper strategy? In Ryan's situation, he did just the opposite. After being let go from his last position, he just sat with it. And in the industry, and let's be honest, obsessed with output and momentum, choosing stillness as a strategy feels almost radical, kind of almost improbable. What makes this so compelling is the honesty around what followed. Credit card debt, anxiety, uncertainty. He didn't romanticize it. He just knew that burying the real work under more work would only delay the inevitable. And it takes a level of self-awareness most of us spend years trying to find.
And the biggest takeaway I think out of all this stuff has been, when you get into these states of your mind is calmer and you're present with yourself and all that, occasionally these random thoughts, these intuitions, instincts, revelations, whatever you want to call it, they'll pop up and you can grab onto it if you want. And that's where I've probably found the most truth if you were going to call it truth seeking throughout all this internal work. It's been those random moments where you can't plan it. Just a thought pops up and it's rethinking something in a way that I never thought before, for creative projects, for personal relationships, for my own life and direction, all sorts of stuff, like everything. But it's those little moments that I think I keep doing this for. And it gives me a lot of gratitude for who I am and a lot of hope for where things are going.
This episode with Ryan really resonated with quite a few listeners around the world already, and it has been beautiful to see the messages coming back. Because in this moment, Ryan describes something that science actually backs up beautifully here. When the mind quiets down, the default mode network, the part of our brain responsible for insights and creativity, it gets space to do its thing. He's not talking about mindlessness or achieving some perfect Zen state. He's talking about those unexpected thoughts that arrive when you stop forcing them. For creatives, this is gold. We're so wired to produce, to validate, to check, that we rarely give our best ideas room to surface naturally. We force them. And Ryan's willingness to sit in the discomfort of his own mind long enough to get those moments is a skill, and one that he had to train for. And that's the most part people skip.
I think more than anything, something I've uncovered over this past couple of years is the core of why I do this stuff is to contribute to culture. And when it comes to making the music stuff for the concert visuals, it felt like there was a really cool observation of just seeing people enjoy a concert with my animations in the background, knowing that I had something to do with that. There's going to be many other ways that I can contribute to culture in the future, but I think right now, opening up about my own vulnerability and what I've been through and what I've learned as a result, if that helps just one or a couple people get through whatever they're going through, whatever burnout, anxiety, depression, whatever, I think more of us need to be open about talking about this on a public stage, and it only helps. So if I saw someone like this talking a couple years ago and vulnerable about their situation, I know that would have helped me get through what I was going through at the time.
Even though I thought that we finished our conversation, Ryan came up with one more moment, which really, it was one of those that just stood out and made total sense as a summary of what I've been talking to him and learning about his work, about his journey. This moment reframes the whole career pivot, going from corporate tech work to concert visuals. This was not just a business decision, but a values decision. He wanted his work to mean something beyond deliverable. And it extends the conversation itself, opening up about depression, asking for help, working with a coach. He's not sharing it for clout. He's sharing it because he knows someone is listening who needs to hear it 2 years ago when he needed to hear himself. That kind of generosity, especially from someone still figuring it out, is what makes the best podcast moment genuinely memorable. I thanked Ryan for his honesty, for his transparency and generosity sharing these thoughts, because those moments are the ones that make difference in anyone's life. Thank you for joining me on this bonus episode. If you haven't checked out a full episode just yet, I would like to believe that I just convinced you to do so, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more accessible resources to help you discover your daring creativity, you can pick up one of my books on themes of mindful creativity, creative business, branding, and graphic design. Every physical book purchase comes with a free digital bundle including an ebook and audiobook to make the content accessible wherever you are and whatever you do. To get 10% off your order, visit novemberuniverse.co.uk and use the code podcast. Have a look around and start living daringly.